Good evening and welcome to the East of England Co-op annual members meeting, which for the first time is being held as a hybrid meeting. This means that tonight we have members both with me in the auditorium at Worsted Park and joining us online. I am accompanied on the stage by the Society's Vice President, Belinda Bulsing, and its Secretary, Jonathan Carey. Also here on the stage are the Society's joint Chief Executives, Doug Field, Nick Denny, and Neil O'Keefe. 13 of the Society's 16 board directors are here in person, and 3 are joining us online. The Society's external audit partner from EY, Anup Sodhi, is also in attendance. Having completed my first 18 months as president of our co-op, I find myself once again speaking these words against a backdrop of global unrest and uncertainty. It's clear that cooperation and cooperative values and principles remain as relevant as ever. After 2 years of lockdown periods and other restrictions, as we learn to live and work with the continuing risk of COVID-19, I want to acknowledge and thank our colleagues, members and customers for their unwavering support during the last financial year. Our colleagues have continued to work incredibly hard to keep our members and customers safe, often covering at their neighbouring stores to ensure we could continue to provide essential services to our communities. In recognition of their ongoing contributions, the board and I were pleased to announce the continuation of the 20% colleague discount for a further year. We simply wouldn't be a cooperative without our members. Your loyalty has enabled us to weather the past 12 months. In recognition of your importance to us, we are pleased to have this year been able to strengthen our member proposition with the introduction of Member Perks, a range of discounts with local restaurants, attractions and other services. Our Community Cares Fund continues to make an impact across our region, with over £490,000 worth of grants now awarded since its creation in April 2020. This year alone, we've provided a total of £200,810 in grants, ranging from £1,000 to £5,000 each, to local voluntary, community and social enterprise organisations, supporting community action, mental health, well-being and food justice. I would also like to personally thank colleagues, members and customers who kindly donated to our food bank donation drive, raising an incredible £22,000 to help keep local families warm and fed. Over the last couple of months, we've also been running in-store collections in aid of the DEC, Disasters Emergency Committee, across all our sites to provide much-needed aid to Ukraine. I'm delighted to announce that due to the generosity of our members and customers, we have raised, as at the end of last week, over £35,000. Excellent though this is, we hope to reach £40,000 when the collection finishes at the end of the busy Platinum Jubilee Bank Holiday week. There is still time to make a donation at the till by cash or card at any of our stores. We've had another challenging year. With the continuing effects of COVID-19 and Brexit, a lower level of trading profit was always anticipated. However, results were worse than expected due to supply chain disruptions beyond our control, further depressing food retail sales in the second half of the year. Our reduced trading profit of £1.5 million was therefore disappointing. Nevertheless, the Society delivered an increase in profit before tax. This was due to significant gains in the value of our investment property portfolio, together with a reduction in our defined pension scheme deficit. As a result, members' funds increased by over 35 million to 234 million. Full details are available in the Society's annual report, which is available on our website. You may have noticed that for the first time, the report is presented online in a multimedia format, with both text and video presentations that we hope you will find both informative and engaging. 2022 is the 10th anniversary of the first dormant member exercise being undertaken by the Society, where members who were removed from the member register at that time, holding more than £1,000 but less than £10,000 in their share accounts, the Society is required to hold the value of such shares in suspense for 10 years. The total number of accounts of this nature held for the period is 56, totaling £88,368.46. The board have accordingly agreed that this sum should now be forfeited to become working capital for the Society. After 50 years of dedicated service to the cooperative movement, Joint Chief Executive Roger Grosvenor retired in March of this year. Roger pioneered several fantastic initiatives, many of which have been adopted across the food retail industry. These include our multi-award-winning Sourced Locally range and sustainable innovations such as the Co-op Guide to Dating and the removal of single-use plastic shopping bags. Roger has made a major contribution to our society and is highly respected both within our co-op and throughout the cooperative movement. We are immensely grateful for all he has done and wish him well for his thoroughly deserved retirement. I would also like to thank Chris Newbury and Fiona Powell, who retired from the board as directors in May 2021, for their contribution over the previous 12, well done Chris, and 4 years respectively. What does the future hold? Our expectation is that our 2022-23 financial year will be even more challenging given global unrest and economic uncertainty. This, together with the reduction in trading profits, is why the Board of Directors have taken the difficult decision to reduce the level of our members' dividend from 1.5 to 1.0%. In addition to the challenges we face, the costs of doing business are rising due to a range of macroeconomic and other factors. We will need to make structural changes over the next few years to mitigate these costs. However, we have a strong balance sheet and sound finances, and will continue to invest wisely to support our members and our communities, and to build our business stronger. The Society's Secretary, Jonathan Carey, will now take you through a few housekeeping measures, including how to submit questions and how to cast your votes during the evening. Over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Frank. Just to welcome everybody here at Worcester Park and also joining us online this evening. So firstly, I'd just like to take you through how you can participate using questions this evening. On the right-hand side of your device or your screen, you'll see a box where you can submit your questions. All questions are being submitted in this way, and that means when we come to the questions and answer session later, we can give equality to those members in person and also viewing from home. The questions will be collated during the evening, and all members will be able to see the questions being submitted on their devices. And if you see a question that you particularly like, you can give it a thumbs up, and it will raise up the list for when we get to the questions being answered later on. We will, however, create a question and answers page, a general question and answers page for those that we can't get to this evening, and that will be available on our website next week. Throughout the evening, you'll also be asked to have your say on a number of member motions, and those motions will be put to you by the President, and we'll be asking for a seconder before being put to the vote. For each of those votes, you'll see a screen appear, and if you're eligible to take part, you'll be asked to submit your preference. We'll keep each vote open for 1 minute, and this will enable you to have time to have your say. Please note that the voting screen will not be visible for those members who are not eligible to take part. You may notice this evening that some, certainly individuals on the top table, will be holding up green and red voting cards. That's just so we're not playing with devices in front of you this evening. But I would just like to do a quick test just to make sure there are no gremlins in the system when we come onto the motions later on. So shortly, eligible members will see the question. Please, can you let us know where you're watching the AMM this evening? And select one of the following choices: Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk, or elsewhere. Okay, thank you. That seems to have worked well, and it appears that most of you are watching from Suffolk, so that's something we didn't know earlier on today. So thank you very much for taking part in that, and 64% has come through, so thank you very much. That's all from me now, and I'll hand you back over to Frank.
I'm pleased to announce that we have received no apologies this evening, so everybody's here. And I would now like to introduce a video presented by our Joint Chief Executive, Neil O'Keefe, together with members of our community and engagement team, who will be giving us an overview of the work we've been doing to support our local communities during the past year.
Hello. During 2021, our community and engagement teams worked to ensure we supported our communities across the region. This support was provided to those who needed it in keeping with our themes of community action, food justice, and mental health and well-being. Through our Community Cares Fund, we provided over £200,000 to projects, events and charities across our region. In addition, the engagement team provided over £38,000 to support sports teams, community events and charitable projects, with numerous smaller donations going to support many local events. We also worked with other co-ops this year to make amazing things happen. We successfully lobbied the government to ensure their Help to Grow digital scheme is also available to cooperative and community benefit societies. In partnership with other retail co-ops, we provided funding for over 40 young women in India to help them secure a regular income through the formation of 2 new cooperatives.
Hi, you're joining me here at Families in Need in Ipswich, a food bank which supports more than 6,000 people in crisis every year. It's also one of our 25 supported food banks in our region. Thanks to contributions from our members and customers given at the tills and revenue from food bank donation cards, we've donated £22,640 to food banks this year, in addition to product donations given in store. In October, we spoke directly with the food banks at our annual summit. The food banks also told us how prejudice deters people from accessing their services, deepening the crisis they already face. So we took action and launched a myth-busting campaign with colleagues and customers to inform them about food banks, challenge those myths, and encourage those who need help to access it. From community gardens in deprived areas to groups tackling holiday hunger, around 23,000 people in our region will benefit from this vital support. One of these groups is Access Community Trust in Lowestoft. They're using their Community Cares grant to train young people in video production and live streaming, creating accessible, easy-to-follow cooking masterclasses for people living in food poverty. Not only are they helping food to go further, They're also building the confidence and skills of disadvantaged young people too. We also continue to boost the value of Healthy Start vouchers from £4.25 to £5.
This is what we've been doing to support mental health and wellbeing. In 2021, we donated £109,000 from the Community Cares Fund to good causes and charities who are working to improve mental health and wellbeing throughout our trading area. Over 35 groups have benefited, meaning that more than 5,500 people will now be able to seek some support to improve what has become a mental health crisis. One of the good causes that we were able to support were Miniature Donkeys for Wellbeing. Our donation has enabled them to provide additional IT equipment in order to carry this out. Hopefully they'll be able to get out and about soon to be able to bring hands-on support to people who are in a mental health crisis. In addition to the Community Cares Fund, we've also been able to provide support through sponsorships and small donations, such as Match of the Dads, which provides advice and support to young men as they navigate fatherhood and life. Also Men's Sheds, particularly in Debenham, where we provided support through refreshments on their launch day when they celebrated the opening of an amazing new facility. Keep Suffolk Moving was another one. And finally, one of the others was Suffolk Mind, who launched an incredible new book called Sammy the Sea Squirt, aimed at helping young children to improve their mental health.
2021 was a busy year when it came to supporting community action projects across Suffolk, Norfolk and Essex. One of our key activities during this time was the In It to Bin It campaign, which we ran during the months of summer. We joined forces with local community groups and gave out 100 litter picking packs to help tidy our region. In total, we collected over 900 bags with the support of our store colleagues and branch staff. We also ran campaigns such as Coffee for Care Workers, where we hand-delivered 30 packs to care homes across our region that had been nominated by our followers on social media. As well as the campaign that I've just mentioned, we also supported and ran several other activities and campaigns throughout the year to support community action in our region. These included providing 77 organisations, events and projects with over £38,000 in sponsorship and making donations to support local community events across a total of 500 different locations. As well as our campaign to celebrate the NHS's 73rd birthday, where we delivered 73 packs of goodies and treats to NHS organisations and facilities across the region. We've also continued our ongoing work with our supported community groups, such as the Ipswich Woodcraft Folk and the East of England Co-op Band.
During the festive period, we supported the most vulnerable members of our society by encouraging our customers to donate and purchase food bank gift cards, which raised a total of just over £7,500. We rewarded 5 community hero individuals in our region with a £250 store voucher to thank them for their inspirational work. We donated for our funeral service 120 pick-me-up festive gift boxes to individuals who were lonely and needed a smile at Christmas. We supported 21 community Christmas lights, 10 Christmas lunches for people alone on the special day, and provided over £6,700 in store vouchers for Christmas events and projects. We also enabled our supported groups to spread festive cheer with carols and music in our stores and donated 1,500 of store vouchers to 9 soup kitchens and night shelters. And lastly, we launched an online memorial service to remember loved ones at Christmas and reflect on the past year. 2021 also saw the emergence of a brand new online interactive live series called Your Co-op Live. Your Co-op Live was designed for our members and customers to interact with the society. Streaming live from several locations, including one of our producers, 2021 saw 4 episodes. They included Food Matters, which focused on food banks and the importance of reducing food waste. Wellbeing Matters, which gave advice and support around wellbeing and health. Source Locally Matters, which focused on our own local producers and food. and Celebrating Life Matters, which provided our audience to ask questions relating to funerals and legal advice.
As you've just heard, 2021 was a busy year for our community teams, a year in which they supported an array of fantastic causes and communities across our region. This demonstrates our commitment to doing the right thing and becoming the East of England's most valued organisation. So that's it for now. We hope you found this update informative and enjoyable. Thanks for watching.
Thanks to Neil and his team for that informative video. We can all be proud of just how much has been going on at the Co-op over the last year. Now I'll hand over to Jonathan for the results of this year's director elections.
Thank you, Frank. So members will be aware that during February and March of this year, the Society invited members to stand to serve as directors on our board. 5 valid nominations were received for the 4 available places. As per last year, Civica were appointed to conduct the election on the Society's behalf, issuing over 11,000 postal packs and 100,000 online votes to eligible members, and this took place during April and May of this year. The ballot closed at noon on the 18th of May, and I can confirm the result as follows. So Beverly Perkins, Belinda Balsing, Sally Chicken and Frank Moxon were all re-elected for terms of 4 years, and in Beverly's case 3 years, as she'll be reaching 12-year term in 2025. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all the candidates and in particular Steve Shaw for standing in 2022. So with that, I'll pass back to Frank.
Thank you, Jonathan. We now move over to the first live vote this evening, relating to the approval of the minutes of the annual members' meeting held on 13th of May 2021. You will have had access to these via the Society's website in the run-up to this evening. I would like to propose the motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mike. I'll now hand back to Jonathan to conduct the vote.
Thank you, Frank. So as per the test earlier on today, I will now launch the voting screen. Please confirm if you approve the minutes of the AMM held on the 13th of May 2021 as a correct record by selecting your chosen option, for, against or abstain. The vote will remain open for 1 minute. Thank you. I can confirm that the minutes have been approved as a correct record. Now back to Frank.
I'm now going to pass you on to our Joint Chief Executive, Doug Field, who together with Lindsay Goodwin, our Head of Finance, will provide an overview of the Society's performance for the year ended 22nd of January 2022.
Do you know the day of our annual members meeting, 19th of May 2022, is International Accounting Day, which is all about promoting the accountancy profession. However, despite all the training we get as accountants, it doesn't make it any easier to explain how we fared during the year covered by our annual report, given the impact of COVID and the global uncertainty we're faced with. I'm joined here by Lindsay, our Head of Finance and Data Analytics, to help explain what happened during 2021.
Hello. By the end of this presentation, Doug and I hope that you'll have an understanding of the things that have impacted our 21-22 financial year and of how we're addressing the future challenges that the Society is facing.
And if what we say triggers any questions, use Slido to register your question and I'll do my best to answer it at the end. As we'll explain, 21-22 was a challenging year, but we expect 22-23 to be even more challenging given the economic headwinds. It's been a much tougher 12 months than we anticipated due to factors outside of our control. However, the resolve shown by our colleagues in dealing with the challenges we faced has been staggering. They deserve all the credit for our positive impact in the region. We're all incredibly grateful for your support during these challenging times. As you can see, although we saw a small 1 million reduction in our turnover, we saw trading profits fall by nearly 6 million to 1.5 million. This is lower than we expected, which is disappointing and resulted in part from supply chain challenges in the second half of the year within our food business. So how did this happen? Let me try and explain. As you can see, sales fell by £1 million compared with the prior year. This was to be expected as shopping habits returned to normal following the national lockdowns. But what is really pleasing is that sales are over 13 million or 4% higher than 2019-20. But to really understand the story of our financial year, we have to dig deeper. As we said last year, it's only when you look at the detail that you can see that there's an awful lot going on here. So I'm going to look at each of our individual businesses, and this graph will show the difference between this year and last from a turnover perspective. Firstly, our food business. We saw its sales drop 11 million. Clearly, that's a big fall. However, they were 5.9% higher than before the pandemic. We continue to adapt to changing shopping behaviour, and I'll show you just how dramatic those changes in shopping behaviour have been. This graph shows you how many food transactions we processed each week of the financial year over the last 3 years. The raspberry line is last year, the green line is this year, 21-22, and the dark blue line is pre-pandemic, i.e. 19-20. So what does this show? You can see when the first lockdown happened in March 2020. You can also see that the 32 million baskets this year is higher than the 30 million last year, but they haven't returned to the level of 19-20. We have undertaken more transactions than last year, but sales have fallen by 11 million. That can mean only one thing. Our average basket size has reduced. And that's what this graph shows. Average transaction value, or the spend per basket, is lower than last year, but pleasingly higher than pre-pandemic. But adding this all together means that food sales were down compared with last year, but 5.9% higher than in 19-20. As I said right at the beginning, despite all the training we get as accountants, it doesn't make it any easier to explain some of this. But we're not just a food business. Food is only one part of our diverse family of trading businesses. Overall, society sales fell by 1 million. Food sales fell by 11 million, so what grew to cover the decline in food sales? Our forecourts, petrol filling stations, saw sales grow by 9.6 million. A combination of increasing pump prices and a 34% increase in the volume of litres sold. We sold an extra 5.5 million litres compared to last year when government lockdowns depressed volumes. The dramatic swings in food and fuel sales overshadow the changes in the rest of our trading businesses, but they all have their own stories. Income from our residential portfolio grew by over 10% thanks in part to the completion of our Longwire Street development in Colchester. We conducted an additional 42 funerals, which saw sales in the funeral business grow by 0.2 million. Travel sales, although markedly higher than 2021, remained significantly down on the levels generated before the pandemic. But pleasingly, we're seeing travel sales recover this year. Co-op Secure Response generated sales in excess of 2 million. Sales in HL Perfect, our stonemasonry business, increased by 18.2%. Although sales in our events business grew, ongoing restrictions meant that they have not yet returned to pre-pandemic levels. Hopefully you now understand why sales were £1 million down on the previous year. So if sales only fell by £1 million, why have we seen such a fall in trading profits? Factors beyond our control have had an impact. The contribution to trading profit from our food business fell substantially, as I can show you. This graph starts with last year's underlying trading profit of 7.2 million, and I'll show you how we ended up at 1.5 million. The decline in food store sales was down to a combination of shopping habits stabilising following the height of the pandemic and supply chain disruption in the second half of our financial year. These supply chain issues meant that the availability of products in our stores was nowhere near the level we expect and the level you deserve. Not having the stock on the shelves makes it difficult to sell. The increase in funeral sales, together with controlling of costs, saw our funeral business increase its profits. The losses in our travel business were greatly reduced as we restructured the business to adapt to a lower level of business. The increase in central costs includes a transition cost for a new pension governance model, investment property development costs, and an increase in the cost of insurance. We also continue to incur costs relating to COVID, with rent relief for tenants, cleaning costs, and self-isolation pay for colleagues. I'm now going to hand over to Lindsay, who's going to give you an update on what that means for our profit before tax.
As Doug has just explained, our trading profits have fallen by £5.7 million compared to last year. But when you look at our annual report, the profit and loss account shows a somewhat different picture, which I'll do my best to explain in a minute. I'm then going to have a look at our balance sheet and show you that our members' funds have improved during the financial year too. In direct contrast to last financial year, our trading profits have fallen, but our annual report shows that profit before distribution and tax is considerably higher than in the last few years. I know that sounds confusing, but trading profit is only part of the picture. There are other types of profits and losses that impact the society that have little to do with how our shops or branches perform. Many of these are related to wider economic conditions and are outside of our direct control. You may remember that last year, due to COVID-related market conditions, our investment property portfolio fell in value, which had a negative impact on our profit before distributions and tax. We also suffered some trading property impairments, which meant our accounting profits fell to £1 million. Doug told you then that he wasn't worried because property movements are often temporary, and he was right. This year, our property portfolio valuation has increased by £6.7 million, which is why accounting profits are so much higher this year than last. The increase in property values has also had a positive impact on our balance sheet, which brings me on to the next slide, our members' funds. We've always had a strong balance sheet. We own over £300 million worth of fixed assets, and for an organisation of our size, have very little debt. In recent years, we've invested heavily in the future of your society, and this year was no exception, with just under £10 million of capital expenditure incurred. This includes 2 new food stores, one in East Harling near Thetford and Chesterwell in Colchester. I'm happy to say that these new stores are outperforming our original sales projections, and I'm pleased to welcome our new store colleagues to the society. Let's take a closer look at our members' funds position. This year, the Society's members' funds have increased by over £35 million to just under £235 million. As you can see from this graphic, members' funds have been volatile over recent years, and there's one main reason for this: our defined benefit pension scheme. Every year, in accordance with accounting regulations, we ask our external actuaries to value the assets and liabilities of the scheme and calculate the overall deficit. The valuation looks at prevailing economic conditions and makes predictions about the future. As you can imagine, making accurate assumptions here has over recent years become more difficult. You might remember that in the 2021 financial year, our pension deficit increased by £9.2 million, which, along with the fall in property values that I mentioned earlier, had a negative impact on our balance sheet. We saw members' funds fall from £214 million to £199 million. This year, we've seen a dramatic reversal. The pension deficit reduced by over £36 million and now stands at £11.4 million. This is good news for our pensioners as the scheme moves closer to being fully funded. It's also good news for the Society's balance sheet, which has strengthened as a result.
So to summarise our results, we've had another challenging year with the continuing effects of COVID-19 and Brexit. A lower level of trading profit was always anticipated. However, results were worse than expected due to supply chain disruptions beyond our control, which led to lower food retail sales in the second half of the year. The reduction in trading profits is disappointing, but as Lindsay has explained, we've seen a significant increase in our profit before tax.
Although there's a lot of economic uncertainty right now, the Society is well placed to tackle the challenges we face. We have a robust balance sheet, strong cash generation, and we continue to invest in future growth.
Thanks for your help in explaining our result, Lindsay. Time to go off and celebrate International Accounting Day.
Thank you.
Today may be International Accounting Day, but people come before money. None of the results we've achieved would have been possible without the dedication, hard work and commitment of our colleagues. They continue to be tested in ways we could never have imagined. As an organisation, we continue to provide essential services. Our colleagues have stepped up to meet the challenges we face, and we'll continue to do everything needed to support them. Like many others, we've been learning to do things differently. It's been a tough 12 months and we've tough times ahead. What keeps me going is the unshakable dedication and commitment of all our colleagues. They have been tremendous. But what does the future hold? I've said a few times that despite the challenges of the last few years, that we expect 2022-23 to be even more challenging given the economic headwinds. Global unrest is contributing to rising costs, especially commodity prices and energy costs. Inflation is rising and interest rates at this moment in time are at their highest level since March 2020. These factors are all contributing to an increase in the cost of doing business. In addition to these rising costs, we have additional regulation to contend with. We have the cost of implementing the change to food stores for high-fat, salt and sugar legislation, and the regulation of prepaid funeral plans also comes into force during 2022. We are well placed to manage the uncertain times ahead, although we will need to make structural changes over the next few years to mitigate the rising costs of doing business. We do have a strong balance sheet. Our finances are sound and we'll continue to invest wisely to support you, our members and our communities. We are all incredibly grateful for your support during these challenging times. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay and Doug, a double act that makes accounting fun. I would now like to welcome the chair of our Audit and Risk Committee, Richard Youngs, who will provide that committee's report and introduce the Society's external auditor, EY.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening, members. As chair of the Audit and Risk Committee, I'd like to provide an update on its activities during 2021. The role of the Audit and Risk Committee is to provide assurance to the board and through them to you, our members, that the financial and governance operations of the Society have been independently examined in a transparent and effective manner. One of the responsibilities of the committee is to approve the terms of engagement with the Society's external auditor and to put forward a recommendation to the board for subsequent approval by the members for the appointment of our external auditor. As members will be aware from last year's annual members meeting, Ernst & Young, EY, was appointed as the Society's auditor for the year ending the 22nd of January 2022. We are pleased to report that following the audit, an unqualified audit opinion has been provided, and I will shortly pass you over to Anup Sodhi, the audit partner at EY, who will present the details of the auditor's report. As a result of COVID-19 and resulting changes to the way in which audits are conducted, additional disclosures continue to be required for this year, primarily relating to the going concern status, and these are set out in the annual report. Later this evening, members will be asked to vote to approve the reappointment of EY to undertake the Society's next audit for the year ending the 28th of January 2023. During the year, the committee also reviewed internal audit reports from PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, the Society's internal auditor. These audits were based on an annual audit plan agreed by the committee and focus on the operational effectiveness and implementation of policies within the East of England Co-op. These reviews have provided assurance that the co-op is being managed effectively and also helpful observation of where to improve performance measures or controls. The committee have also monitored the Society's IT strategy and cybersecurity arrangements and has been assured that in a challenging and changing IT security environment, the East of England Co-op is well placed to deal with both known and emerging threats. You can find full details of the committee's work during the year on page 20 of the annual report. On behalf of the board, I would like to take the opportunity to thank EY and PwC for their work during the year, and I will now ask Anna Psodi of EY to present the auditor's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Ladies and gentlemen, Ernst & Young LLP's report on the group annual accounts, which is dated 3rd of May 2022, is set out on pages 33 to 37 of the annual report and financial statements. Our report contains a description of those assessed risks of material misstatement we identified, which had the greatest effect on the audit, an explanation of how we applied materiality in our audit, and an overview to the scope of our audit, include how that responded to the risk of material misstatement we identified. Our report sets out our responsibilities as an independent auditor, which are established in the United Kingdom by statute, the Financial Reporting Council, and by our profession's ethical guidance. Our report includes confirmation that we conducted our audit in accordance with the international standards on auditing UK and Ireland. An audit involves obtaining evidence about the amounts and the disclosures in the financial statements sufficient to give reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement, whether caused by fraud or error. This includes an assessment of whether the accounting policies are appropriate to the group's circumstances and have been consistently applied and adequately disclosed, the reasonableness of significant accounting estimates made by the directors, and the overall presentation of the financial statements. In addition, we read all the financial and non-financial information in the annual report to identify material inconsistencies with the audited financial statements and to identify any information that is apparently materially incorrect based on our materiality or materially inconsistent with the knowledge acquired by us in the course of performing the audit. If we become aware of any apparent material misstatements or inconsistencies, we consider the implications for our report. Our report concludes that, in our opinion, the group financial statements give a true and fair view of the state of the Society's affairs as at 22 January 2022 and of the Society's profits for the 52-week period then ended. The financial statements have been properly prepared in accordance with the United Kingdom Generally Accepting Accounting Practice, and the financial statements have been prepared in accordance with the requirements of the Cooperative and Community Benefit Societies Act 2014 and the Cooperative and Community Benefit Societies Group Accounts Regulation 1969. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard and Anup. I'm now going to hand you over to the Chair of the Remuneration and Search Committee, Beverley Perkins, who will present the remuneration report. Over to you, Bev.
Good evening, members. The Remuneration and Search Committee report can be found on pages 17 and 18 of the annual report. I don't propose to go into this in detail. However, I will cover two key areas and also our three recommendations. Firstly, the executive remuneration and appraisal. With support from Fit Remuneration Consultants, the committee has undertaken an annual review of the remuneration of the executive team. This ensures the committee are aware of current trends and best practice, and that these are considered when determining executive pay. In 2021, this resulted in recommendations being presented to and approved by the board relating to both salaries and also the leadership team allowance payable to joint chief executives. Members can find a full breakdown of executive remuneration on page 21 of the annual report. The committee and executive team have also completed a collaborative review of executive appraisal process, by which we set objectives and can review the performance of the executive team supported by Make a Difference HR. Secondly, gender pay gap reporting. As the largest independent retailer operating in the east of England with over 4,100 colleagues, the Society is committed to reducing the mean pay difference between men and women. The committee recognises this requires a series of long-term actions to realise both real and lasting change, and also to attract and progress people from diverse backgrounds. To support the Society with this aim, the committee receives and reviews both gender pay gap data and also details of those actions being taken to address the Society's gender pay balance. Members can find details of the gender pay gap report on the Society's website. And now to the three recommendations on directors' fees, directors' fund, and our remuneration report. Firstly, directors' fees. In recent years, the benchmark used has been the average weekly earnings index as produced by the Office for National Statistics. However, due to continued fluctuation to this index, due to national and international factors, it has been determined that this measure would not be appropriate in 2022-23. Instead, the board proposed linking any increase to that awarded to our co-op colleagues based here at the Society's Wearsted Park office. This figure is 2.5% and would result in an increase of £228 per annum and bringing the annual director's fee to £9,346 for service in 2022-23. There will be a wider review of directors' fees during 2022, and this will include selecting an appropriate future benchmark. Secondly, our recommendation on the Directors' Fund. Members will recall that in 2020, the board introduced a process and fund to enable directors to undertake activities on behalf of the board additional to their core role, thereby contributing their skills and experience to exceptional activities that benefit the Society and you, the members. As per 2021, the board is seeking member approval that a sum of no more than £12,000 be set aside to cover such payments in 2022-23. And I can advise that in 2020-21, the total sum paid to directors from that fund of £12,000 was just £5,715. Thirdly, the remuneration report. The table of executive remuneration is set out on page 21 of the annual report. This includes salary, benefits and pension contributions paid to our joint chief executives and society secretary for 2021-22. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank both the committee members and all our colleagues for their support during another exceptional year, and ask that you, as members, support our recommendations and report. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Bev. We will be coming back to members later on this evening in order to vote on certain matters discussed in both the audit and remuneration reports. But for now, we're going to move on to our Q&A session. I hope you've had the chance to raise any questions prior to the meeting or via the questions function on your screen. We will aim to address as many questions as possible. However, if time does not permit us getting round to all of them, we will collate some themes and provide a special Q&A report on our website following the meeting. I'm now going to pass you back to Jonathan, who will facilitate this Q&A session.
Thank you, Frank. And so we're in the part of the annual members meeting where you, our members, can put your questions to our Joint Chief Executives and to our board. So I'd first like to start with a question that we've received in from Michael. And Michael is asking, are you preparing for food availability problems due to Ukraine issues? That's a question for Doug.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Michael. Availability is a big area for our food business, and Ukraine is having a big impact along with a number of other supply chain issues. It's something we're very well aware of. We are part of a cooperative buying group called FRTS, Federal Retail Trading Services, and that is a key topic of conversation and one of many daily and weekly updates. So we're doing all we can to make sure that our stores are stocked full of goods and service and goods.
Thank you, Doug. The next question we've got is, it's been coming from anonymously, but it's a question for Frank. Frank, what do you mean when you say you need to make structural changes? Will you be closing stores?
Thank you for that question. I appreciate it's a scary sounding sentence. As I've said in my report, we've been through a lot of challenges over the last year or two, and we're still facing many more. But during that period, in keeping everything running, we've learnt a lot. As I mentioned, we do have a strong balance sheet and we have an excellent set of businesses, and we intend to keep it that way. It is our intention, ideally, to grow all our businesses in order to make us bigger and stronger. So it will be very much, I hope, a positive restructuring review rather than a negative one. So I appreciate the point about closures, but that's not where we're starting from.
Thank you, Frank. Next question we've had in is from George, and George has asked, how is or does the society engage proactively with our members other than where the AGM is held? And that's a question for Neil.
Thank you. We have a broad programme throughout the year to engage with our members. Some of it was referred to in the video we shared with you earlier, but our Co-op Live has been a new initiative, and we've run actually in the last 12 months 5 programmes around food matters, well-being, sourced locally, and celebrating life matters, which have actually was so popular that we ran 2 programmes on that area. We also communicate directly with our members, talking about our member benefits, and we've launched member perks this year and send out regular updates on those perks as they develop and change through the year, and also through social media and on the website. We also have a community engagement and sponsorship programme, so the engagement team get out throughout the year, whether it be at Christmas, whether it be supporting litter picks, Clean for the Queen, that type of event, and also making local presentations to beneficiaries of sponsorship. So a very broad-ranging programme that's developed quite a lot over the last 2 years as we've learnt different tactics to engage with members and customers following the lockdowns.
Thank you, Neil. Next question we've had in is from Sheila. Sheila's asked, she's glad to see that the Society's joined the Too Good To Go bag scheme. Is this going to continue, or is it just a trial at this stage? And that's a question for Nick.
Yes, thank you. For those who don't know what Too Good To Go is, they're magic bags which contain 3 products of food which haven't sold. So you can download the app and order your magic bag, and it's proved a huge success. We trialled it for 6 weeks in 42 stores. It was very, very successful, so that is here to stay, and it's one of the key parts of our sustainability policy as well, which is preventing food waste going to landfill and keeping it in the human consumption chain.
Thank you, Nick. Next question, which has also come in anonymously. When will the Society actively start increasing the range of own value brand products in all of its stores to help members to reduce their shopping bills? And that's a question for Doug.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question. That brand proposition is a really key area for us. It's something that's an ongoing discussion within the Co-op buying group, and actually getting an update on it next week. But it's very much in our thinking as we've got to look at how we address that rising cost and that cost of living crisis.
Thank you, Doug. Next question is coming from Michael. Michael's asked, any chance of free car charging points at Society shops like Tesco's? And that's a question for Nick.
Thanks for that, Michael. You won't be the first person that have asked us that. We've actually got a partnership with a company called Plug and Go, and it's Plug and Go who actually put the charging points in on our premises. They are a commercial organisation and therefore do need to make a return on it. What I can tell you is, as well as the existing sites that we've got a further 14 planned for this year, and there are more in the pipeline. So I'm really pleased we're extending the electric charging points across our estate.
Thank you, Nick. Next question is from Bev, and Bev has asked, what specifically has caused so many supply chain problems? And that's a question for Doug.
Yep, no, that's a good question. Supply chain problems, there's a variety of supply chain problems, majority of which are outside our control. There's been IT issues, supplier issues caused by labour, challenges at the borders, and just availability of raw materials. So there's lots of factors there that are impacting supply chain, and it's a countrywide issue, really.
Thank you, Doug. Now, got a question on the pension fund from Peter, and Peter's asked, can you comment on the current state of the pension fund? So again, a question for Doug.
Yep, as we reported in our finance update, the pension scheme was one that the deficit reduced by over 36 million at the end of the financial year, and is continuing to do very well despite the volatility in the market. So it's all good news on that front at the moment.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for the question, Peter. Next question we've got in is from Elizabeth. Elizabeth asked, will the Co-op be offering a discount to low-income members, such as Iceland are doing, for the state pensioners? That's a question for Neil.
Thank you. We don't have any plans specifically to do that at the moment, but as we obviously go through our planning for this year and next, then with inflation and food prices rising, then that's areas like that are things we're going to have to start to consider. We do an awful lot in terms of supporting food banks and that through our community engagement funding. So we've got that, but we can look into building upon that.
Thank you, Neil. Next question we've got is from Robert, and Robert's asked, are price rises on food going to happen more as time goes by? And it's a question for Doug.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question. A lot of it depends on the individual products. So cost prices are rising, the cost of business is rising, and we're doing our best not to pass those costs on. But at some point, we can't deny that prices will rise over time, given the current state of inflation.
Thank you, Doug. Next question from Lewis. Lewis has asked, will the Society be able to set up collection points for used crisp packets or silver and such like? And that's a question for Nick.
Yeah, very topical. We have in fact set up collection points in store for various items such as crisp packets, cling film, and what have you. You can look at the items that can be recycled on our website. If you've just gone to the website and /recycling. Clearly, if that isn't covered, that is something we will look into initiating. I should say this was something that Roger initiated 2 or 3 years ago. So I think it's a great initiative, and as Frank said in his speech, it's one of the great things that Roger did on the sustainability front in store.
Thank you, Nick. And that actually leads on to a question about Roger's retirement, which I'll pass over to Frank for. And the question is, Frank, with Roger retiring, will the Society be looking to replace him?
Thank you for that question. Clearly, as I said earlier, Roger was a big part of our Co-op, and with him leaving, there is clearly a gap that needs to be filled. We have put in place a number of temporary appointments to keep things running in the meantime, and as part of our deliberations on how we move forwards, we will confirm the role that we need to put in place to replace Roger. So it's an ongoing project, and we will make progress with that, and something will happen in future.
Thank you. Another question that's come in anonymously. Will you be considering an outlet in the Kesgrave-Martlesham area, bearing in mind the new developments that will be taking place? That's a question from Shirley, so it's one for Nick.
Yes, thank you. We are obviously asked a lot about new stores. I would just on a broader point, we do have a good pipeline of new stores across the region. We do tend to focus on areas where we're not currently represented. Kesgrave and Martlesham is already heavily competed. There's 2 Tesco's there. There's an Aldi, there's an M&S Food Hall. However, there is a big development planned on the BT site, which is due to come on stream, I think, in 2027 or 2028. And I can assure you that we are engaging with the developer should there be any commercial space available to take in that development.
Thank you, Nick. Next question we've got in from Bev. Bev's asked, in addition, very welcome moves to include local source produced items. What steps are being taken to increase availability of organic and sustainably produced items? It's a question for Neil.
Yeah. So we review our range all of the time. We look into everything from packaging and to the products and local sourced products. So that's a big part of our offer, as we've mentioned in the presentation earlier. So we continue to review what the demand is out there and to encourage our partner suppliers to help us with that sustainability target in terms of how products are packaged and local sourced, etc.
Thanks, Neil. And I've got a question from Nicholas, and Nicholas asked, surely the best way to engage is to sell more to more customers. At the moment, your pricing structure is a barrier to those on low incomes. Is there any comment on that position? That's for Doug.
Yeah, clearly selling more is a big area of focus for us. Our pricing is determined by the buying power of the co-op movement. Also recognises the different store model that we have in terms of being a convenience store, and we work hard to make sure our prices are aligned and competitive within the convenience sector in which we trade and operate.
Thank you, Doug. We've got a question here from Michael. Michael's referring to the Perks webpage that Frank touched on earlier. And Michael's asked, the webpage itself asks for information. Surely just going and showing your card should be sufficient. That's a question for Neil.
Yeah, I think this, along with most businesses that run membership schemes and loyalty programs and the like, not all of our members give us email addresses or contact details and things like that. And this, I'm pretty sure, is just us asking for a little bit more detail that can help us provide as much appropriately targeted products and communications to our members as we can. So we don't necessarily always have the contact details to talk to members about what those perks are, and it's simply an opportunity to gather that information which customers and members are prepared to share to give them a better service with the perks offer.
Thank you, Neil. And that brings us to the end of all the questions we've received this evening. So a big thank you for myself, for everyone that's taken part in submitting their questions. And with that, I'll hand you back over to Frank.
There were some excellent questions there. Thank you very much. The directors always find your queries of interest because it gives us a chance to hear your views and see what is important to you. We now come to the board motions. I can first confirm that we did not receive any motions from members this year. The first item, which I shall propose as a resolution, is for members to receive the annual report and accounts for the year ended 22nd of January 2022. Do I have someone to second the motion? Thank you, Esme. We will open the poll now. You should see the options for, against, and abstain on your screen. Please select one option and we'll announce the results shortly. Please remember that the poll will only be open for 60 seconds and members who are not eligible to vote will not be able to see the poll. Thank you, everybody. I can confirm that the report and accounts has been received. We now move on to the remuneration report presented by Beverley Perkins. I'd like to propose that we accept that report as a motion. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Sally. Again, we will open the poll right now. You will see the three options, for, against, and abstain. Please select one option. I'll announce the results later. The poll will be open for 60 seconds, and if you're not eligible to vote, you won't be able to see it. Thank you, everybody. I can confirm that the remuneration report has also been duly received. As referenced within Beverley's report, we now move on to the directors' fees for 2022-23. The board are recommending to members that the directors' fees for 2022-23 be increased by 2.5% to £9,346 per annum. I propose the motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, gentleman over there. We'll open the poll now. You will again see the options for, against, and abstain on your screen. Please choose one, and we'll announce the results in 60 seconds, which is the length of the poll. Members who are not eligible will not be able to see the poll. Thank you, everybody. I can confirm that the directors' fees have been increased by 2.5% for 2022-23. Further to the Remuneration Committee report, members are asked to approve a fund to remunerate directors for activities undertaken on behalf of the Society that fall outside their core duties. For example, participating on an additional extra appoints panel. I'd like to propose the motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Chris. We will now open the poll for 60 seconds. You will have the same three options, for, against, and abstain. Please select one, and I'll announce the results shortly. Again, if you're not eligible to vote, there's nothing for you to see. I can confirm that the members have approved the continuation of the scheme. We now move on to approve the reappointment of EY as the Society's external auditor for the year ending 28th of January 2023. I shall propose the motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Richard. We'll open the poll now. You have 60 seconds to choose one option from for, against, or abstain. I'll announce the results shortly, and for those ineligible to vote, you won't be able to see this. Thank you, everybody. I can confirm that you have approved EY's reappointment for the forthcoming year. The next motion is the distribution of a dividend of £1,221,000, equivalent to 1% of qualifying spend paid on the value of members' qualifying purchases made from the Society during the year ended 22nd of January 2022. I'll propose that motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Maria. The poll will open now for 60 seconds. Please choose one of for, against, or abstain. I'll announce the results shortly, and if you're not eligible to vote, there's nothing for you to see. Thank you, everybody. I can confirm that you have approved the distribution of the dividend for 2022. I'm now going to ask you to vote for the Society's continued affiliation to the Cooperative Party for the 12 months ending June 2023 at a subscription rate of £34,000. As a founder society of the Co-op Party, we have paid an annual subscription for over 100 years. Part of our proud tradition of working to bring the cooperative values into Parliament and our laws. Our society regularly meets with the Co-op Party to ensure that we get political and legal support for things like protecting retail workers from crime and passing legislation to protect our cooperative values. So I hope you can continue to support our tradition by approving this motion. I will propose the motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Sally. We will open the poll now for 60 seconds. Please choose one of for, against, or abstain. I'll announce the results at the end of the 60 seconds. And if you're not eligible to vote, you won't see anything on your screen. Thank you, voters. I can confirm that you have approved our continued support of the Co-op Party. That was the last of today's motions, and I'd now like to introduce a video providing an update on the Society's sustainability approach and recent achievements.
Hello and welcome to my introduction to sustainability at our co-op. The word sustainability can mean different things to different people. At the East of England Co-op, we believe being sustainable means looking at every part of our business and culture. It's about being accountable for our impact on the planet and supporting our colleagues and communities to thrive. It's about how we source our food and the standards we set ourselves, ensuring we're creating a positive legacy for future generations. That's why one of our key co-op strategies is taking action to help save our planet. Well, that's a pretty big task. So where do we begin and how do we know we're really making a difference? There are a number of recognised models for tracking and reporting on sustainability. Closely matching with our values, we've chosen to use the Sustainable Development Goals Compass. The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, were adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015. Also known as the Global Goals, they aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. We've used the SDG Compass to help define our priorities and set ourselves targets. By understanding the impact we're having now, we've identified 6 of the 17 goals where we can make the greatest positive difference and that best reflect our co-op values. They are zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, and climate change. Over the coming months, you'll hear lots more about sustainability, the steps we're taking, and how you can get involved. A sustainability group made up of colleagues from across our business is working to design and implement ideas that will have a positive impact on sustainability. This will include raising awareness of sustainability issues with our colleagues, members, customers, and communities. We'll be keeping track of progress in our annual sustainability report, which will be available on our website.
Thank you for that, Nick. That brings us, I'm pleased to say, at least 12 minutes early to the end of this year's annual members' meeting. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the colleagues involved in arranging this evening's event. There's always a lot more work that goes into these things than people think. And I hope that you have been able to participate, be that in person or virtually. Very shortly, you will receive an email from us asking for your feedback on this evening's event. It will only take a minute of your time to complete, and we'd really appreciate your comments. Enjoy the rest of your evening and take care. Good evening and good night.